still catching our breath after those countless voshos and tusopalas courtesy of DJ Somebody. We'll have more music from him later on. But now it's baby talk time. That's what that song means. That's what these beautiful pictures mean. Puma Pimpana, our first baby talk of 2019. And the question we're asking is your child notoriously picky as an eater? Well, fear not, because you're definitely not alone. Our pediatric dietitian, Kath Megaw, is here with us, and we're here to help you understand why children are the way that they are, and maybe what you can do to try and help them along, especially as we go back to school. Nutrition is a very important thing, and whether your child is going to little baby's creche for the first time or even going to big school for the very first time, nutrition is so important.
Absolutely.
Kath,
Kath,
good to have you.
hi, welcome back, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Too.
Okay, cool. So it is said that eating is the most difficult sensory task that children can do. Why is that?
I think because it uses all the senses. So you've got the smell, you've got the taste, you've got the touch, you know, so the feel of the food, and even the noise that the food makes.
Yeah,
some
the
children
visual
are
as
very
well.
and then obviously the visual. So you've got a lot to get through before the child actually swallows the food.
Wow.
So it is a challenge, and obviously children also have different preferences. And food also, you must remember, I think from a parent's point of view, food is so critical because we know that without food our children aren't going to thrive or grow. And a child picks up on this, and especially around about the toddler age when they're trying to assert their independence.
Right.
They realise food is one of the areas that they can actually assert their independence and cause a bit of ructions.
Okay, because they can say no.
Exactly.
They can close their mouth and stop you. I just wish they realized that what you're feeding them is good for them. So find a way of asserting your independence elsewhere, you know? If I throw the ball and tell you to go fetch it, then say, no, you fetch it. You know, that kind of thing.
The thing is you've got a lot more vested in their food than what you have about them throwing a ball. So
that's very
they
true.
get that. So if they want to separate from you, that's the area they're going to use,
They're
because it's
reading my
going to
mind.
make a real impression on you as a parent.
So with that said then, how do we identify the difference between a picky eater, and maybe we can define what a picky eater is, and a problem eater, which I'm assuming is something of a more serious nature?
Yeah, so your picky fussy eaters is a very normal stage of development. It often happens around after a year when the child realizes they have a say, they can say no, they're exposed to other foods, the world becomes much more open to them and they're much more aware of the environment. So, and then they'll suddenly have a choice. They don't want to eat the veggies they used to eat, or they don't want to do this, drink this that they used to drink, and things like that. Or they want to actually eat what dad is eating. That's quite normal at that age group. But then your problem feeders or your feeding disorders are where children will literally stop eating altogether, or they will only eat one food group. So if a child is eliminating a lot of food groups, in other words, they won't eat any veggies or fruit, or they won't eat any protein foods, that's a concern, and that's more in the feeding disorder. A picky eater will generally eat food from each food group, but might only eat one veggie or one type of fruit consistently, and that's normal.
Yeah, this is also why it's so important for a family to sit down and eat together to set that example, right?
Exactly.
This is what we're trying in our household, and so far it's been working, because the worst thing is when you get to, you know, when my kids were still babies, you know, you prepare them a nice meal in your head, it's a beautiful meal, and then slap the bowl, and then the food's everywhere. No, all that effort. Kath, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to continue on this topic as well. If you have any questions, Facebook's where it's at. #Expresso Show. If you want to know how to deal with a picky or fussy eater, or even a problem eater, we'll talk about that in just a bit.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
It's a Thursday morning. Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Great to have you at the start of a day. We're talking baby talk right now, and very importantly, because we're going back to school, whether it is little school, primary school, big school. Of course, nutrition is so important for our children to keep them healthy, growing strong, and of course, using those learning opportunities as best as they can. We're joined by Kath Megaw, Paediatric Dietitian and co-author of Weaning Sense, as well as Sammy Hammond, registered speech and feeding therapist. And we were focusing earlier on problem feeders and what it is to be a problem feeder, what it is to be a picky eater. But let's move the conversation along and ask the question about when should you be concerned that your child is a fussy or picky eater?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, if your child is taking away a whole food group, that is a big concern, because there's a whole lot of nutrients that are going to be lacking. If a child appears to be losing weight, or not growing adequately, that's a concern. And if a child is lethargic, we have had parents will bring their child and say their child just doesn't seem to have the energy that they used to have.
Yeah.
Those are definite concerns and red flags.
Yeah. So let's talk about what happens when you have consulted with a professional and you get into feeding therapy. How is that handled?
So the approach that we use, it's called a sequential oral sensory approach, and we look at a child in a holistic sense. So you're looking at all the different factors. And within our therapy, we do diet modifications, texture modifications, meal plans, a lot of hands-on work with parents, because obviously all your feeding goes on at home.
Yes.
So it's a lot of parent training. And then just looking at them from a holistic perspective, is it a sensory issue? Is it a medical issue? Is it a behavioural issue, and addressing it all in a step-by-step approach?
Yeah, because it can become incredibly frustrating for parents when they don't understand what the reason is for the child not wanting to eat at the end of the day. And what are some of the common picky eating issues that you've identified in practice?
I think there's, on all those levels, so the sensory, the child that is more sensitive, not just to food, but to environmental change, to clothing change, going from winter clothes to summer clothes, and noise around them. That child has got a higher risk of being a picky eater, and introduction of new foods can be quite stressful. And behavioural can also be, again, that whole, I want to separate, assert myself, and I know that you as a parent want me to eat, so that's a brilliant place for me to assert myself, because when I don't eat, I see the stress and the anxiety in you, and I'm now kind of manipulating you. So,
and I kind of like it.
So behavioural is so important. And you know what I've noticed? When a parent makes an appointment to see us, and they'll phone us and say, I'm desperate, my child's not eating, please help. And we're like, we'll sort it out, don't stress. They come to us and they go, I don't know what happened, my child started eating.
So it was just a phase that they were
But
going.
it was also the anxiety. We removed it by saying, we'll help you.
Okay.
Suddenly the parent relaxed and was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to worry about you because I'm going to get professional help. The minute the mom backed off or the dad backed off, the child was like, well, I can't use that anymore, so I'll start eating.
Can we quickly just touch on, we said that breakfast is a very important meal of the day. Smoothies are a great way to get around quick, easy, nutritious meals for our children. Why is it so important, and what do you do if your child comes back without having eaten their lunch at school?
Do you want to...
I think that school is a wonderful thing to encourage children to eat. So obviously, if it's once or twice, it's not too much of a concern. But if it's quite a consistent thing, because we find a lot of the time is with children when they're in that environment around peers, they almost more encouraged to eat because they see their friends eating, and it's a new environment. It's fun. Let me try something. So if it does happen quite consistently, it does raise alarm bells. Because obviously children need to eat throughout the day.
Yeah, I tell you what, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but fortunately there is social media, and we can follow the two of you ladies at Kath Megaw on social media, and at Sammy_Ham with double M, right? For all those questions that you might have as a parent, trying to understand your child's eating habits, how to introduce them to solids, and all these kinds of wonderful things. Thank you for the baby talk, ladies. Much appreciated.
Thank you.